The arrival. The day began like any other on Earth. The sun rose over cities and fields, and people went about their daily routines, unaware that their world was about to change forever. High above, in the dark expanse of space, a massive alien fleet was approaching. These ships glimmered under distant stars, their metallic hulls reflecting the light of the sun. The fleet was led by the Zarkonians, a race known for their advanced technology and ruthless conquests. They had heard stories about Earth, a small blue planet teeming with life, and they believed it would be an easy target. As the Zarkonian ships entered the solar system, their commanders gathered in the main ship, the dreadnought Arx-9. The chief commander, Zarkar, was a tall figure with a dark, sleek body and sharp features. He looked out at the view of Earth through the massive viewport. A smug smile crossed his face as he turned to his officers. "Prepare to initiate contact. This planet is ours for the taking," he commanded, his voice echoing with confidence. Meanwhile, on Earth, a sense of normalcy prevailed. In a bustling city, a young pilot named Mia was preparing for a routine training flight. She was excited but nervous, knowing that flying was her dream. Mia had always admired the bravery of her fellow pilots and hoped to one day be a hero herself. As she strapped herself into the cockpit of her fighter jet, she glanced at her commander, Colonel Richards, who was observing from the control tower. He nodded at her, encouraging her to do her best. Just as Mia took off into the clear blue sky, alarms began to blare across military bases worldwide. The Earth Defense Coalition, EDC, had detected the Zarkonian fleet on their radar. Colonel Richards rushed to his communication console, a look of concern on his face. "We have multiple unidentified objects entering our atmosphere," he shouted, his voice filled with urgency. The news spread quickly. Military officials scrambled to their posts, and the government convened an emergency meeting. Leaders from various countries joined forces, united by a common purpose: to protect their home. As they gathered in the war room, tension filled the air. Colonel Richards stood at the front, pointing to the screen showing the alien ships. "These are not just any invaders," he explained. "The Zarkonians have conquered many worlds. They believe Earth will be an easy conquest." The leaders murmured among themselves, fear evident on their faces. "We can't allow this to happen," one leader stated. "We must show them that we will fight." Meanwhile, Mia was in the skies above, her heart racing. She had just completed a loop-de-loop when she heard a voice crackling over the radio. "Mia, come in. We need you to return to base immediately. There's an emergency." The urgency in the voice sent a chill down her spine. "What's happening?" she asked, her pulse quickening. "There's an alien fleet in our atmosphere. We need all pilots back to strategize." Mia's excitement turned into worry. She turned her jet around, flying back to base as fast as she could. As she landed, she saw the faces of her fellow pilots. Everyone looked tense, preparing for something they had only seen in movies. Inside the war room, the atmosphere was electric. Colonel Richards laid out a map of Earth, marking potential targets where the aliens might strike first. "They will likely target major cities to create chaos," he explained. "We need to form a united front. We cannot let them think they can take us easily." Mia listened intently, her determination growing. She had always believed in the strength of humanity, and now she would have the chance to prove it. "What can I do to help?" she asked, stepping forward. Colonel Richards looked at her, appreciating her bravery. "We need all hands on deck. You and your fellow pilots will be our eyes in the sky. Your job is to gather intelligence and protect our cities." As the meeting concluded, the leaders decided to send a message to the Zarkonians, demanding that they leave Earth immediately. The Zarkonians, however, had no intention of retreating. Zarkar sat in his command ship, listening to the human message with amusement. "They think they can intimidate us with words," he sneered. "Prepare our forces. Show them what true power looks like." Back on Earth, the atmosphere grew tense. As evening fell, the sky darkened, and the people below looked up, unaware of the impending storm. The alien ships hovered ominously above major cities, their shadows casting fear over the land. Mia and her fellow pilots took to the skies once more, ready to defend their planet. The adrenaline coursed through her veins as she took her position in formation. The pilots exchanged nervous glances, but they were determined to protect their home. "We can do this," she encouraged her team. "We're not just fighting for ourselves, but for everyone down there." As they flew higher, the reality of the situation settled in. The Zarkonian fleet was massive, and they were facing a formidable enemy. Yet, deep down, Maya felt a flicker of hope. Humanity had always been resilient, and she believed that they could rise to the challenge. In that moment, as the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Mia knew they were about to face the fight of their lives. The Zarkonians had underestimated Earth, but the humans would show them just how powerful they could be when united. The stage was set for a clash that would determine the fate of their world. The arrival continued. As Mia and her fellow pilots soared through the atmosphere, the vastness of space filled their view. The sight of the alien ships was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Each vessel was enormous, with sleek lines and a menacing aura. The humans had only seen images of such ships in science fiction movies, and now they were real, hovering ominously above their cities. Colonel Richards coordinated with ground control, establishing communication channels between the pilots and the command center. "Stay alert and maintain formation," he instructed, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "We need to gather as much information as we can about their capabilities." Mia nodded, her focus sharpening. She glanced at her radar screen, which showed multiple blips indicating the alien ship's positions. The numbers were staggering. "There are so many of them," she whispered to herself, determination igniting within her. She knew the stakes were high, but fear would not hold her back. Suddenly, the aliens sent out a broadcast. It was a garbled message, transmitted in their native language. But with the help of Earth's best linguists, it was quickly translated. The words echoed through the pilots' headsets, dripping with arrogance. "Humans, you are outmatched. Surrender now, and you may keep your lives. Resist, and face your destruction." The pilots exchanged worried looks, feeling the weight of the alien threat. But Mia clenched her fists, feeling the surge of defiance. "We can't back down," she said, her voice firm. "We fight for our planet, and everyone we love. We can't let them intimidate us." As the aliens awaited a response, the human military held a meeting in the war room. Tension crackled in the air as leaders debated their options. "We can't show weakness," one leader insisted. "If we back down now, we will be at their mercy forever." Colonel Richards agreed, adding, "We need to show them our strength. We will not surrender." A plan was quickly formulated. The military decided to gather intelligence on the alien fleet, using Mia and her fellow pilots to scout for weaknesses. Back in the sky, Mia's fighter jet hummed with power. The pilots flew closer to the alien ships, staying out of direct fire while trying to gather information. The Zarkonian vessels were armed with weapons that glowed ominously, and their shields shimmered, making them look almost invincible. Suddenly, a bright flash lit up the sky. One of the alien ships had fired its weapons at a nearby city, causing a massive explosion. Panic ensued below as people screamed and ran for cover. Mia's heart raced as she watched the chaos unfold. "They're attacking. We have to do something," she shouted into the radio. "Stay focused," Colonel Richards replied firmly. "We need to assess their firepower and relay that information back to the ground. We will fight back when the time is right." With steely resolve, Mia led her squadron toward the alien fleet. They dodged laser blasts, narrowly escaping the destruction that the Zarkonians rained down on the Earth. Mia could feel the fear and determination of her fellow pilots as they flew in tight formation, their hearts beating as one. Just then, Mia noticed a gap in the alien formation. "There, we can slip through and gather intel on that ship," she exclaimed, pointing to the vulnerable spot. "It's risky, but it might be our best chance." Her fellow pilots nodded in agreement, trusting her instincts. With a deep breath, Mia maneuvered her jet toward the opening, her heart pounding in her chest. As they flew closer, she could see the alien ship's hull up close, revealing intricate designs and advanced technology. Suddenly, a Zarkonian fighter jet swooped in, attempting to intercept them. Mia's instincts kicked in. "Brake left," she shouted, veering sharply to avoid the incoming fire. The pilots followed her lead, their training kicking in as they executed evasive maneuvers. Mia's fingers danced over the controls as she focused on the alien ship. The enemy was distracted by their efforts to chase her squadron, leaving them exposed. "Now's our chance. Get close and scan for vulnerabilities," she urged her team. The pilots activated their scanners, collecting data on the alien ship's defenses and weapon systems. Just as they began to gather crucial information, the alien fighter managed to line up a shot, a bright beam shot toward Mia's jet. She pulled hard on the controls, narrowly avoiding the blast. "We have to get out of here," she cried. With the intel collected, Mia led her squadron back toward the safety of the cloud cover. The Zarkonian ships were still firing at the cities below, unaware that the humans were gathering valuable information. As they descended, Mia felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. They had faced danger head-on and survived. Back at the command center, Colonel Richards reviewed the data they had obtained. "This is invaluable," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. "We can use this to develop strategies that exploit their weaknesses." Mia and her fellow pilots were met with cheers as they landed. The atmosphere shifted from fear to hope. They had proven that humans were not as defenseless as the Zarkonians thought. As they prepared for the battles to come, Maya felt a fire burning inside her. They would not surrender. They would fight for their world. Together, they would show the aliens the strength of humanity's spirit. The day that began with ordinary routines had turned into the beginning of an extraordinary fight for survival. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of orange and red, Maya looked up at the stars, knowing that this was just the start of a monumental clash. The Zarkonians had arrived, but they would soon learn that Earth was not an easy target. Humanity would rise to the challenge, united and ready to defend their home. The first strike. As night fell over Earth, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The shadows of the alien ships loomed large, casting a dark pall over cities already gripped by fear. The government leaders convened once more, strategizing their next moves in the war room, while the military prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Mia and her fellow pilots stood by, hearts racing, as they awaited orders. Colonel Richards paced the floor, deep in thought. "We know they are underestimating us. We've gathered enough intelligence to formulate a plan," he began, looking at the map spread across the table. "But we need to act fast. They won't wait for us to get ready." "What if they strike again?" one leader asked, worry etched on his face. "We can't afford to lose any more cities." Mia felt a surge of determination. "We won't let them. We need to strike first and show them we're ready to fight," she suggested, stepping forward. The room fell silent as everyone turned to look at her, surprise mixed with admiration. "Your enthusiasm is commendable, but we need a solid plan," Colonel Richards replied. "We cannot allow our emotions to dictate our actions." But Mia knew that fear could paralyze people, and she could sense that everyone was on edge. "We can use the data we collected to target one of their ships," she insisted. "If we can take out one of their vessels, it will send a message." After a moment of deliberation, Colonel Richards nodded. "Very well. We'll launch a coordinated attack on one of their ships. If we succeed, it will boost morale and show the Zarkonians that Earth is not an easy conquest." The plan was set into motion. As the pilots prepped their jets, adrenaline surged through Mia's veins. She could feel the weight of the responsibility on her shoulders, but she was ready. With her squadron, She would prove that humanity could stand up to the might of the Zarkonian fleet. The first strike was planned for dawn, when the alien ships would be less vigilant. Mia and her fellow pilots gathered at the airstrip, their jets lined up and ready for takeoff. The sky was still dark, but a hint of light began to peek over the horizon. "Remember, we're in this together," Maya reminded her team. "Stick to the plan, and we'll show them what we're made of." They exchanged nods of determination, their spirits rising as they prepared for the challenge ahead. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, the pilots launched into the sky. Maya felt exhilarated as her jet soared higher, the wind rushing past her. She glanced back at her squadron, all of them tightly packed in formation, ready to face the enemy. They approached the target, a massive Zarkonian ship called the Conqueror. Its hull was dark and imposing, adorned with sharp angles that seemed to cut through the air. The ship was surrounded by smaller fighters, patrolling the area like hawks watching over their prey. "Stay focused," Mia called out over the radio. "We need to get in, strike fast, and get out before they can retaliate." As they drew closer, the alien fighters noticed their approach and moved to intercept. Suddenly, chaos erupted in the skies. Zarkonian ships swooped in, firing beams of energy toward the human pilots. Mia's heart raced as she twisted her jet to dodge the incoming fire. "Break formation. Engage evasive maneuvers," she shouted, guiding her team into a defensive pattern. The air crackled with energy as laser blasts whizzed past. Mia's squadron split into smaller groups, each pilot targeting the alien fighters. "I've got one on my tail," one pilot exclaimed, fear creeping into her voice. "Stay calm. You can do this," Maya shouted back, focusing on her target. She lined up her shot and pulled the trigger. The beam of energy shot forth, striking the alien fighter and sending it spiraling down to the earth below. A rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins, fueling her determination. "Nice shot, Mia," another pilot cheered, but there was no time to celebrate. The remaining Zarkonian fighters closed in, and Mia knew they needed to act quickly. "Form up. We're going for the Conqueror," she commanded. The pilots regrouped, their jets flying in tight formation as they approached the massive ship. They could see the ship's weapon systems coming to life, ready to defend against the incoming attack. "On my mark," Maya said, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. 3, 2, 1, now." The squadron unleashed a barrage of missiles toward the Conqueror, the projectiles streaking through the air like shooting stars. They hit their target with a series of explosions that lit up the sky, sending debris flying. The Zarkonian ship shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering as they absorbed the impact. "We did it," Mia shouted, excitement bubbling within her. "Now let's pull back and regroup." But before they could retreat, the Conqueror retaliated. Its weapon systems fired back, beams of energy streaking toward them. "Evasive maneuvers," Mia shouted, her heart pounding as she dove and rolled to avoid the oncoming fire. One of the jets in her squadron took a direct hit, exploding in a fiery blaze. Maya's stomach dropped. "No, get out of there," she yelled, but it was too late. The pilot was gone. Grief washed over her, but she knew they couldn't give up. "Stay strong. We need to keep fighting," she urged her remaining team members. They continued to engage the Zarkonian fighters, determined to avenge their fallen comrade. As the battle raged on, the human pilots began to tire, their energy waning. But Mia pushed forward, rallying her team. "We can't let them win. We fight for our planet, our people, and those we've lost." Her voice rang with conviction, igniting a fire in her fellow pilots. The tide of the battle began to shift. The Zarkonians, stunned by the human pilots' tenacity, struggled to regain control. As they launched another wave of energy blasts, Mia spotted a critical weakness in the Conqueror's defenses. "We can exploit that," she shouted, determination surging through her. "Follow me." Mia led her squadron in a daring maneuver, aiming straight for the exposed area. They unleashed another round of missiles, and this time they struck true. The Conqueror erupted in a colossal explosion, illuminating the sky with bright colors and sending shockwaves through the air. Cheers erupted from the remaining pilots as they watched the Zarkonian ship crumble. "We did it. We took down the Conqueror," Mia exclaimed, exhilaration coursing through her. But the victory was bittersweet. They had lost a comrade, and the battle was far from over. "Let's regroup and head back to base," Mia ordered. They flew back, their hearts heavy with grief, but proud of what they had accomplished. As they landed, the atmosphere shifted. The reality of the battle weighed heavily on them, but they had proven that Earth would not go down without a fight. The Zarkonians had underestimated humanity, but now they knew they were facing a fierce opponent. In the war room, Colonel Richards welcomed them back. "You all did well today. We've shown the Zarkonians that we can stand up to them, but we must remain vigilant. This is just the beginning." Mia nodded, feeling a sense of pride swell within her. They had struck the first blow, but there was still much to do. The fight for their planet had only just begun, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would stand strong against the alien threat and prove that humanity's spirit could never be broken. The Zarkonian response. The atmosphere at the military base was thick with tension following the victory over the Conqueror. Although they had scored a crucial win, the losses weighed heavily on Mia and her fellow pilots. The empty seat of their fallen comrade, Lieutenant Sarah, was a stark reminder of the dangers they faced. Yet the mood also buzzed with a sense of hope, fueled by their unexpected success against the formidable Zarkonian fleet. Colonel Richards gathered everyone in the war room for a debriefing. The screens around the room displayed images of the Zarkonian ships, accompanied by data collected during the battle. "Today, we sent a strong message to the Zarkonians," he began, looking each pilot in the eye. "But they will not take this loss lightly. Expect retaliation." Mia felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She knew they had shaken the Zarkonians, but she also understood their ruthlessness. "What's the next move?" she asked, raising her hand to speak. "First, we need to analyze the data from our last encounter," Colonel Richards replied. "Then we must prepare for the worst. We can't allow ourselves to be caught off guard again." As the team dispersed to analyze the battlefield data, Mia sat down with her co-pilot, Alex. "Do you think they'll come back stronger?" she asked, her voice low. Alex nodded, running a hand through his hair. "They'll regroup and come back with more firepower. They didn't expect us to fight back like we did. We've probably made them angry." Mia took a deep breath, trying to shake the feeling of dread. "We'll just have to be ready for them," she said, determination setting in. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. The pilots trained relentlessly, practicing maneuvers and learning new tactics. They were fueled by the desire to honor Sarah's memory, their fallen friend serving as a reminder of the stakes they faced. During this time, intelligence reports started to come in. The Zarkonians were not just regrouping. They were mobilizing a massive fleet. Colonel Richards called another meeting, his face grave as he presented the new information. "We've intercepted communications indicating that the Zarkonians are planning a full-scale attack on Earth." Mia's heart raced. "How soon can we expect them?" she asked, her voice steady despite the anxiety swirling inside her. "Within days," Colonel Richards replied. "We must fortify our defenses and prepare for battle. This time, we need to be ready for their full might." The pilots returned to their jets, now equipped with new weaponry and improved technology designed to counter the Zarkonians' advanced systems. Maya felt a sense of pride in their progress. They were no longer the underdogs. They were warriors fighting for their planet. The day of the anticipated attack arrived, and the air was charged with tension. Mia and her squadron were stationed at the ready, adrenaline coursing through their veins as they awaited the call to action. The sky was clear, but an uneasy silence hung in the air. broken only by the hum of the jet's engines. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base. "The Zarkonians are here," a voice shouted over the intercom. Mia's heart raced as she climbed into her cockpit. "Everyone, prepare for launch," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. As the pilots took off, they could see the Zarkonian fleet in the distance, a menacing formation of dark ships blocking out the sun. "They'd brought more ships than we anticipated," Mia exclaimed, her stomach sinking. The sheer size of the alien fleet sent a wave of fear through her, but she pushed it aside. "Stay focused, team. We've trained for this." The squadron flew into formation, ready to face the overwhelming odds. Mia's pulse quickened as they approached the enemy. "On my mark," she shouted, adrenaline surging. 3, 2, 1, now. The human pilots unleashed their weapons, missiles streaking toward the Zarkonian fleet. Explosions erupted in the sky, lighting up the horizon as their missiles collided with enemy ships. But the Zarkonians were ready this time, returning fire with relentless energy beams. Mia dodged and weaved through the incoming attacks, her heart pounding in her chest. "Stay close. Watch each other's backs," she shouted, her focus razor-sharp. The sounds of explosions and the roar of engines surrounded them as the battle intensified. As the fight raged on, Mia's squadron managed to take out a few smaller Zarkonian ships, but the losses were mounting. Their numbers were dwindling, and the Zarkonians pressed forward. Suddenly, Mia noticed something alarming. "They're targeting our base. We need to stop them." "On it," Alex replied, his voice determined. They broke away from the main battle, racing toward the approaching Zarkonian ships that aimed to destroy the base. "Form up," Mia commanded, her mind racing as she strategized. They had to stop the Zarkonians before they could inflict serious damage. With coordinated precision, Mia and her team launched another wave of missiles, striking true and exploding one of the enemy ships just as it was about to fire on the base. Cheers erupted in their communication headsets, but Mia knew they couldn't celebrate yet. "Keep pushing. We have to protect our home," she shouted, rallying her team. They continued to engage the Zarkonian forces, determined to turn the tide of the battle. As they fought bravely, the odds shifted. The Zarkonians, realizing they were facing a formidable opponent, began to retreat. The sight filled Mia with hope, but she knew the battle wasn't over yet. "Don't let them escape. Finish what we started." With renewed determination, the human pilots pushed forward, targeting the retreating ships. They struck hard, determined to show the Zarkonians that Earth was not to be underestimated. As the dust settled and the last of the Zarkonian ships fell from the sky, Mia and her squadron erupted in cheers. They had fought valiantly, proving that humanity could stand strong against the overwhelming might of their enemies. Returning to base, the pilots were met with cheers from their comrades. They had defended their home, but Mia knew the fight was far from over. The Zarkonians had learned a valuable lesson, and she was certain they would return. Yet for now, they had won a significant battle. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the base, Mia felt a sense of pride swell within her. They were not just defending their planet. They were fighting for each other, for their lost friends, and for the future of humanity. They would stand united, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The Zarkonian retreat. After the fierce battle, the atmosphere at the base was electric. Humanity had managed to repel the Zarkonian forces, but Mia and her fellow pilots were keenly aware that their victory was only temporary. The scars of battle were fresh, and the loss of their comrades lingered in their hearts. Despite this, there was a sense of determination among the pilots as they processed the recent events. Colonel Richards called another meeting, and the pilots gathered in the war room. The walls were lined with screens displaying footage from the battle and images of the remaining Zarkonian fleet retreating into the depths of space. "We fought hard today," Richards began, his voice steady yet somber. "But the Zarkonians will regroup. They will not forget this defeat." Mia sat up straight, her mind racing with thoughts of their fallen friends. "What can we do to prepare for their return?" she asked, her voice clear. "We need to analyze everything we've learned from this battle," Richards replied. "We have to adapt our tactics and ensure our technology is up to par with their advancements. We can't afford to be caught off guard again." The pilots nodded in agreement, understanding the gravity of their situation. As the meeting ended, Mia joined her friends, Alex and Jenna, in a quiet corner of the room. "What do you think they'll do next?" Jenna asked, her eyes wide with concern. "I think they'll come back stronger," Alex replied, crossing his arms. "They'll want to avenge their losses, and we need to be ready for whatever they throw at us." Mia's mind raced with possibilities. "What if we could strike first?" she suggested. "We know where they retreated to. If we can gather intelligence and launch a preemptive strike, we might catch them off guard." Jenna raised an eyebrow. "That sounds risky. We could end up walking into a trap." "We have to consider it," Mia insisted, her determination shining through. "If we wait for them to regroup, we'll be at a disadvantage. We need to take the fight to them." That night, as Mia lay in her bunk, sleep eluded her. The memories of the battle replayed in her mind. She thought about Sarah, her fallen comrade, and the sacrifices they had all made. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her chest. She couldn't shake the feeling that they had to act before it was too late. The next morning, Mia approached Colonel Richards with her plan. "Sir, I believe we should consider a preemptive strike on the Zarkonian fleet," she proposed, her voice steady. "We know where they retreated, and if we act quickly, we might catch them unprepared." Richards looked thoughtful, stroking his chin. "It's a bold move, Mia, but the risk is significant. If we miscalculate, we could lose more pilots." "I understand, but we have to take the initiative," Mia pressed. "We can't just wait for them to come back stronger. We need to show them that we're not afraid." After a long pause, Richards nodded. "All right, we'll gather a small strike team, and we'll launch a reconnaissance mission to gather more intel on their fleet. If we find an opening, we'll take it." Mia's heart raced with excitement. This was the opportunity they needed. The team began to prepare for the mission, and the pilots worked tirelessly to ensure their jets were ready for the upcoming operation. The atmosphere in the base buzzed with anticipation, and for the first time in days, Mia felt a spark of hope. On the day of the reconnaissance mission, Mia, Alex, and Jenna climbed into their jets, a sense of camaraderie enveloping them. "No matter what happens out there, we stick together," Mia reminded them, her voice firm. As they launched into the sky, the earth fell away beneath them, and Mia felt a rush of adrenaline. They flew toward the coordinates they had gathered, their eyes scanning the stars for any sign of the Zarkonian fleet. After a tense flight, they spotted the Zarkonian ships drifting in the distance, surrounded by a protective formation. It was clear that they were regrouping and preparing for their next move. Mia's heart sank as she observed the sheer size of the fleet. "There are more ships than we thought," she whispered to her team. Alex's voice crackled over the radio. "We need to report this back. There's no way we can take them on with just our squadron." Mia nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "You're right. Let's pull back and gather intel. We need to return with a solid plan." As they turned to head back to Earth, Mia noticed something unusual on the screens. "Wait, they're starting to separate," she exclaimed, her heart racing. "They're splitting up. This might be our chance." "Should we engage?" Jenna asked, her voice tinged with excitement. Mia hesitated for a moment. They had come to gather intel, not to engage. But the opportunity was too tempting to ignore. "Yes, let's take out as many as we can," she shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. With renewed determination, Mia led her squadron toward the isolated Zarkonian ships. They maneuvered with precision, weaving through the stars, and engaged the enemy with a fierce determination. Missiles flew, and explosions lit up the darkness of space as they unleashed their firepower. The Zarkonian ships were caught off guard, their defenses compromised. Maya felt a surge of pride as they struck true, taking down one ship after another. "We can't stop now," she shouted, her heart racing. "Keep pushing forward." The battle raged on, but the tide had turned. The Zarkonians were struggling to regroup, and Mia's squadron took full advantage of their disarray. The camaraderie among the pilots shone brightly as they fought side by side, each one covering the other's backs in the heat of battle. Finally, as the last of the Zarkonian ships fell from the sky, Mia let out a triumphant cheer. "We did it. We took them by surprise." As they returned to Earth, the weight of their victory filled Mia with hope. They had proven that they could stand against the might of the Zarkonian fleet, and for the first time, she believed they had a chance to turn the tide in this war. But she also knew that the Zarkonians would not forget this loss easily. The fight was far from over, and they would need to remain vigilant for whatever challenges lay ahead. But for now, they had won a significant victory, and Mia couldn't help but smile at the thought of what they had accomplished together. Humanity was stronger than ever, and they were ready to face whatever the universe threw their way. The Zarkonian counterattack. The mood at the base was jubilant following the recent victory against the Zarkonian fleet. Cheers and laughter echoed through the halls as pilots celebrated their success. Maya felt a rush of pride as she recounted the events of the battle to her friends, Alex and Jenna. They had proven to themselves and to the world that humanity could stand against alien invaders. However, amidst the excitement, Colonel Richards remained cautious. He gathered the pilots for a briefing the next morning. The atmosphere in the war room was a mixture of optimism and apprehension. The screens displayed images of the Zarkonian fleet, now diminished but still formidable. "While we achieved a significant victory, we must remain vigilant," Richards began, his voice steady but serious. "The Zarkonians will not take this defeat lightly. They will regroup and strike back with everything they have." Mia exchanged glances with Alex and Jenna. They understood the gravity of the situation. "What's our next move, sir?" Maya asked, her voice filled with determination. "We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for a potential counterattack," Richards replied. "We will also send scouts to monitor Zarkonian movements. We need to know when and where they plan to strike next." As the meeting concluded, Maya felt a sense of urgency. They had gained an advantage, but she feared it would not last. "We have to prepare for their return," she told her friends. "They're not going to back down. We need to be ready for anything." The next few days were filled with training and preparation. The pilots practiced maneuvers and tactics, honing their skills in anticipation of the Zarkonian response. Mia pushed herself harder than ever, determined to be ready for the fight ahead. Then, late one night, the alarm sirens blared throughout the base. Red lights flashed, illuminating the darkness as the pilots scrambled to their jets. "What's happening?" Mia shouted as she ran toward her fighter. "We've detected Zarkonian ships approaching," a technician shouted back. "They're coming in fast." Mia's heart raced as she climbed into her cockpit. The adrenaline surged through her veins as she powered up her jet. The familiar hum of the engines filled her with a sense of purpose. They were ready to defend their home. "Pilots, this is Colonel Richards," came the voice over the radio. "Prepare for immediate launch. We're going to intercept the Zarkonian fleet before they reach our territory." Mia felt a mix of excitement and fear. This was it. The Zarkonians had come to reclaim their pride, and they would not go down without a fight. As her jet soared into the sky, she could see the enemy ships in the distance, their dark silhouettes cutting through the stars. "Stay sharp, everyone," Maya radioed to her squadron. "We know what they're capable of. Let's show them what we can do." As they approached the enemy fleet, the Zarkonians opened fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness. Mia maneuvered her jet, dodging the incoming blasts. "Engage at will," she commanded, her voice steady. The battle erupted with chaos. The Zarkonian ships were relentless, firing their weapons with precision. Mia and her squadron fought back, using their training to outmaneuver the enemy. Explosions filled the air as missiles collided with ships, sending debris spiraling into space. "Watch your six," Alex shouted as a Zarkonian ship fired at Mia. She reacted instinctively, twisting her jet to evade the blast. The adrenaline pumped through her as she locked onto the enemy target, firing her missiles with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, the Zarkonian ships fell, but they kept coming. Mia could see the determination in their eyes, a fierce desire to reclaim their pride. She could feel the pressure mounting as the enemy forces pressed on, refusing to back down. Suddenly, a massive Zarkonian cruiser appeared on the battlefield, dwarfing the smaller ships. Mia's heart sank as she realized the enemy had brought their strongest weapon to bear. "We need to take that cruiser out," she shouted to her squadron. "We're outnumbered," Jenna replied, panic creeping into her voice. "We can't let fear stop us," Mia urged. "If we take down their flagship, the rest will scatter. Trust in our training." With that, Mia led the charge toward the cruiser, her squadron following closely behind. They dodged enemy fire as they approached the massive ship. It was a daunting task, but Mia felt a sense of purpose. They had come too far to turn back now. As they closed in, Mia activated her targeting system, focusing on the cruiser's weak points. "On my mark," she shouted, her voice steady. 3, 2, 1, now. The squadron unleashed their missiles, a barrage of firepower directed at the cruiser. The impact was explosive, and Mia watched as the ship shuddered under the assault. But the Zarkonians were quick to retaliate, and the cruiser's defensive systems came online. "Fall back," Richards ordered over the radio. "Regroup and find cover." Mia felt a surge of frustration. They were fighting for their lives, and the Zarkonians were not giving up easily. "We can't let them win," she yelled, her heart racing. As the battle continued, Mia noticed a small opening in the cruiser's defenses. It was a risk, but it could be their only chance. "I'm going in," she declared, determination burning in her chest. "Are you crazy?" Jenna shouted, her voice filled with worry. "It's too dangerous." "I have to do this," Mia replied. "If I can take out the cruiser, we might turn the tide." With a deep breath, Mia pushed her jet into high gear, racing toward the opening. The Zarkonian ships fired at her, but she maneuvered skillfully, dodging their blasts as she closed in on the cruiser. Her heart pounded in her chest as she approached the target. Come on," she whispered to herself as she readied her weapons. As she unleashed her missiles, the cruiser erupted in a brilliant explosion. The shockwave rippled through space, sending smaller Zarkonian ships spiraling out of control. Mia felt a rush of triumph. They had done it. But her celebration was short-lived. The remaining Zarkonian forces regrouped, and the battle raged on. Mia could see her squadron struggling against the relentless attacks. "Stay together," she shouted over the radio. "We can win this." As the fight continued, Mia and her squadron pushed back against the Zarkonian forces. The tide was turning, but they still faced fierce resistance. They fought with every ounce of strength they had, refusing to back down. Finally, as the last Zarkonian ship fell, a deafening silence enveloped the battlefield. Mia's heart raced with disbelief and exhilaration. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious once again. As they regrouped, Mia felt a mixture of exhaustion and pride. They had proven that humanity's military power was not to be underestimated, but even in their victory, she could sense that the Zarkonians would not give up easily. The fight was far from over, and she knew they would have to prepare for whatever came next. With determination in her heart, Mia looked out at the stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had shown their strength, but now it was time to fortify their defenses and prepare for the inevitable retaliation. Humanity would not be defeated. They would rise to the occasion and fight for their survival. The calm before the storm. After the fierce battle with the Zarkonian forces, the atmosphere on Earth was one of cautious celebration. News of their victory spread quickly, filling people with pride and hope. However, in the hearts of the military personnel, there was an underlying tension. They knew that the Zarkonians would not give up easily, and the fight was far from over. At the base, Colonel Richards called a meeting with his top officers, including Mia, Alex, and Jenna. They gathered in the command room, where screens displayed various intelligence reports and updates. The mood was serious, and the air was thick with anticipation. While we achieved a significant victory, we must prepare for the Zarkonians' next move. Richards began, his voice steady and commanding. They are regrouping, and we need to anticipate their strategy. Mia listened intently, absorbing every word. The thrill of victory had quickly turned into the burden of responsibility. "What can we do to prepare?" she asked, determined to contribute. Richards nodded. "We need to reinforce our defenses and ensure that our technology is ready for anything they throw at us. Additionally, we should increase our scouting missions to keep track of their movements." "Excellent point," Richards replied. "We will work on advanced tactics and train our pilots in various scenarios. We must be adaptable and ready for any situation." The officers exchanged ideas, brainstorming new strategies and methods to counter a potential attack. Maya felt a surge of energy as they discussed advanced flight maneuvers and tactics. She was eager to learn and improve, to be prepared for the inevitable. After the meeting, Mia, Alex, and Jenna headed to the simulator room for additional training. They entered the large, high-tech chamber, where they could practice their skills in a virtual environment. As they settled into their pilot seats, Maya felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. This training would be crucial in the days to come. "Ready for this?" Alex asked, a competitive grin on his face. "Always," Maya replied, her determination shining through. "Let's show the Zarkonians what we're made of." As the simulation began, the trio faced various challenges, from dodging enemy fire to executing complicated attack patterns. They communicated seamlessly, working together as a cohesive unit. The more they practiced, the more confident they became in their abilities. Hours passed, and the training session came to an end. The three pilots stepped out of the simulator, panting but exhilarated. They had made significant progress and felt more prepared for the challenges ahead. "I think we're ready for whatever the Zarkonians throw at us," Jenna said, wiping sweat from her brow. "Agreed," Maya replied, her heart still racing from the simulation. "We've got this." But as they left the simulator room, a sense of unease lingered in the back of Mia's mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that the Zarkonians were plotting something big. Days turned into weeks, and the tension only grew. Reports indicated that Zarkonian ships were spotted near their home planet, and the military kept a close watch. The people of Earth were on edge, waiting for news of an impending attack. Then, one fateful night, the alarm sirens blared throughout the base. The loud, blaring sound shattered the silence, sending everyone into a frenzy. Maya's heart raced as she rushed to her jet, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Everyone, this is Colonel Richards," came the voice over the intercom. "Zarkonian ships have been detected entering our atmosphere. All pilots, prepare for immediate launch." Mia climbed into her cockpit, her mind racing. This was it, the moment they had been training for. She powered up her jet, feeling the familiar hum of the engines beneath her. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and she could sense the determination of her fellow pilots. "Stay focused, everyone," Mia urged over the radio as she joined her squadron. "We've trained hard for this. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." As they soared into the night sky, the sight of the Zarkonian fleet filled Mia with a mix of fear and resolve. The enemy ships were massive, dark silhouettes against the stars, and the air crackled with energy. "Look at their numbers," Alex said, his voice barely audible over the roar of the engines. "They'd brought everything they have." "Stay sharp," Maya replied, her pulse quickening. We need to find their weak points. As they approached the Zarkonian fleet, Mia's heart raced. The time for preparation was over. It was now a fight for survival. The Zarkonians were about to show humanity just how serious they were about reclaiming their honor. Suddenly, a barrage of laser fire erupted from the Zarkonian ships, illuminating the night sky. Maya felt her instincts kick in as she maneuvered her jet, dodging the incoming blasts. Engage at will, she commanded, her voice steady. The battle erupted with chaos as missiles flew and explosions lit up the darkness. Mia's training kicked in as she engaged the enemy, targeting Zarkonian ships with precision. She fought with every ounce of strength and skill she had, determined to protect her home. As the battle raged on, Maya felt the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. This was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for humanity's future. They would not back down, no matter the odds. But deep down, she knew that they were relentless. They would fight with everything they had, and the true test of humanity's strength was about to begin. As she battled fiercely in the skies, Mia prepared herself for whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that the fate of Earth rested in their hands. The final showdown. The chaos of the battle enveloped the night sky as Mia and her squadron faced the overwhelming might of the fleet. Explosions lit up the darkness, casting eerie shadows on the ground below. The sound of missiles whistling past and the crackle of laser fire filled the air, creating a symphony of war. Despite the chaos, Maya felt a fierce determination within her. "Stay sharp," she shouted over the radio, her voice cutting through the din. "We need to focus on taking down their command ship. That's our best chance." As she led the charge, her eyes scanned the skies for the massive command ship. It loomed in the distance, a colossal structure surrounded by smaller ships, all buzzing like angry hornets. It was heavily armed, but Mia knew that if they could bring it down, they would cripple the Zarkonian forces. "On my mark," she instructed her squadron. "We'll strike at their flanks, and then aim for the command ship." With a deep breath, she pressed the throttle forward, pushing her jet to its limits. The wind whipped against her, and adrenaline coursed through her veins. The plan was risky, but they had no choice. They needed to disrupt them before they could regroup and retaliate. As they approached the command ship, Maya signaled her squadron to break formation. "Now," she yelled, and they dove toward the Zarkonian vessels, unleashing a barrage of missiles and laser fire. Explosions erupted around them as their weapons found their targets. Mia's heart raced with every burst of fire, her focus unwavering. The thrill of the fight ignited a fierce fire within her, and she maneuvered her jet through the hail of enemy fire. "Cover me." Alex's voice crackled through the radio as he took on a pair of pursuing Zarkonian fighters. Mia could see the tension in his movements, the way he expertly dodged and weaved. She admired his bravery and resolve, knowing they were all in this together. Just then, Jenna's voice broke through the chaos. "Mia, watch out. You have one on your tail." Mia's instincts kicked in as she felt the presence of the enemy fighter closing in. She banked sharply to the right, narrowly avoiding a deadly laser blast. "Thanks for the heads up, Jenna," she replied, her voice steady despite the rush of adrenaline. As they pressed on, the command ship loomed closer. They needed to breach its defenses. "We're going to hit them hard," Mia shouted. "Concentrate all fire on that ship. We take it down together." With renewed vigor, the squadron aligned their jets, focusing their firepower on the command ship. Maya aimed her targeting system, feeling the weight of her responsibility. This was more than just a battle. It was a stand for Earth and all of humanity. "Firing," she shouted, pressing the trigger with determination. A stream of missiles shot forth, slamming into the Zarkonian command ship. The impact was immediate and devastating. The ship trembled under the assault, and Maya felt a rush of exhilaration. "Direct hit," Alex cheered. "Keep it up." But the Zarkonians were relentless. They regrouped, launching a counterattack with a fury that sent shockwaves through the squadron. Lasers and missiles flew, creating a deadly dance of destruction. The sky lit up in vibrant colors as explosions erupted all around them. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked Mia's jet, causing her to jolt in her seat. Alarms blared, and warning lights flashed as her systems began to fail. "No, no, no," she exclaimed, panic rising in her chest. "I can't go down now." "Hang in there, Mia," Jenna shouted over the comms. "You can make it. Just pull up." Summoning every ounce of strength, Mia focused on her controls, desperately trying to regain stability. She felt the aircraft shudder beneath her, but she fought against the odds. "I'm still in this," she yelled, determination flooding her veins. With a deep breath, Maya steadied her hands, regaining control of her jet. The Zarkonians were still firing relentlessly, but she was not out of the fight yet. "I'm going back in," she declared, her resolve unyielding. As she soared back into the fray, she spotted the Zarkonian command ship again. It was damaged but still operational, its weapons firing with unrelenting force. "We can't let them regroup," Mia shouted. "Everyone, focus on that command ship. We finish this now." With the squadron rallying around her, they launched another concerted attack. This time, the Zarkonians were caught off guard. Their defenses were weakened, and Mia's squadron took advantage of the chaos. Missiles exploded against the command ship, sending debris scattering into the void of space. Almost there, Mia urged, adrenaline fueling her every move. She locked onto the command ship's primary weapon system and fired. The missile struck true, and the ship erupted in a blaze of light, sending shockwaves through the air. Cheers erupted over the comms as the command ship began to crumble. The Zarkonians were in disarray, their forces losing cohesion. "Keep pushing," Alex shouted, his voice filled with triumph. "We can win this." Mia's heart soared as the tide turned in their favor. The Zarkonian fleet, now leaderless and confused, began to retreat. As the last of their ships flowed into the darkness, a wave of relief washed over Mia. They had done it. They had defended their home. As she flew above the battlefield, the enormity of what they had accomplished began to sink in. The people of Earth were safe for now, thanks to the courage and strength of their military forces. Mia felt a sense of pride swell within her. They had faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious. But she also knew that this was just the beginning. The Zarkonians would return, and humanity needed to be ready. "Let's get back to base," she said, her voice steady and calm. "We have a lot of work ahead of us." As they flew back home, the stars twinkled above, a reminder of the vast universe beyond. They had fought for their world, proving that humanity would not be underestimated. The battle may have been won, but the war was far from over. The fight for Earth had only just begun, and Mia was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.